Well, welcome to another edition of Griffith Realty's Land and Legacy. Thank you for listening. We really appreciate those who have been checking in with us. We're still trying to get the hang of these podcasts, but we think we're getting it. But thank you for being here. Today we're really honored. We have a guest, and I'll let Carol, my sister, do the introduction since she knows Jim better than I even do. So go ahead, Carol.
Well, we're very pleased today to have a special guest with us from the Livingston County Building Department. And this is a Livingston County building official, Jim Rowell. And I've had the opportunity to meet Jim and follow what he does through Livingston County as being a county commissioner. I'm so impressed with his department and the staff that he has that works alongside with him, and how he has handled the building process in Livingston County. And just the professionalism this particular department has. So with that, Jim, we'll have you kind of tell us. Scott and I will even learn more about your department, I'm sure. But I know that you have a very robust website. So anyone in Livingston County can find out a lot of information by going to your website. But I'll let you just tell the audience what you do, and you do it well. So I know that you're a modest man, but go ahead. You've got the bragging rights because you deserve them.
Okay. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Scott. My name is Jim Rowell. I'm the building official for the county. I'm excited to be here. I'm always excited to talk about construction. It's really all I've ever known and all I've ever done. So I love the topic. It may seem boring to some people, but I've been with the county about 11 years, and we do a lot of good stuff. You know, we do have a very robust website. We're pretty digital nowadays, so you can get a lot of your permits online, and construction's doing great in the county and the state as a whole. So construction has never been a business without some challenges, so there are some challenges.
Sure.
So, but all in all, it's a good time to be me, and it's a good time to be a contractor in Livingston County.
Well, I know there's a lot of construction going on, and I know the audience, we, of course, are here to talk about real estate, but one of the things that I think would be kind of interesting, I think, to the group, well, actually two things. One is, and I'll let you elaborate on this, but I think it's pretty neat, the program that you came up for Livingston County to actually give back, if you will, or discount your fees in order to make building a little bit affordable. I know that you took the lead on this in Livingston County, and I'll let you explain what that is in detail, but I thought that was a pretty neat program that you initiated.
Okay, well, thank you. Back in the 2000s, the county had approximately 52 employees. Right now we have 21 employees. So, and, for reasons, there's, the activity is not nearly what it was in 2000. But the Construction Code Act, Public Act 230, actually requires building departments to set their fees at a level that actually represents their effort. So as the economy grows, the overhead goes down because we do more for less. And so we started to acquire a higher fund balance, and we can see that our income was growing. We're not in the business to make money. And so over the last 5 years, we've actually lowered our permits 3 different times, and we think that's a first in Michigan, and we're very proud of that. And we continue to work without taxpayer dollars. Building departments are self-funded. And again, it's a requirement under the Public Act to set those fees accordingly, and Livingston County does. So some others may not.
And that's awesome. Now, I mean, to the degree that you're actually the building official over the majority of the construction taking place in the entire county. I mean, it's I know that everybody knows they live in townships or cities, and then there's the county, but you're looking at all the townships except for a couple that have their own departments, correct?
That's correct. We do all the townships and cities and villages and the Hamlet of Howell within Livingston County, with the exception of we don't do the building activity in Howell, City of Howell. We do the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing permits in Howell, and we don't do anything in Green Oak Township. They have their own building department. But we also do the City of Williamston in Ingham County that started about 1.5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And we're currently looking at nailing down a township that is just adjacent to us in Oakland County that we think we're going to be able to acquire as well.
Isn't that great? Wow. Well, and as you say, as the economy scale goes up, maybe it'll relate to cost savings for everybody,
Absolutely. And this particular township has inspections 1 day a week, so not even a day a week. It's the afternoons on 1 day a week. So I think that's Thursday. So if you miss your Wednesday inspection or you're not ready for it, you don't pass, I literally got to have to wait 8 days to get another inspection. And, from any business, if they throw that hurdle in you, you're not going to succeed.
Right.
So
anybody who's ever waited for a C of O knows what it would be like to have to wait a week to get another person to come out. Right?
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's one of the things I admired most about your department is you know the concerns out there with the trades, and not only are you trying to resolve some of those issues that are time consuming like that, like waiting for a C of O. I can remember years ago waiting at a closing, you had to get the C of O before the closing could take place and things get backed up. But you've also have used technology to its fullest also, right, with your inspectors and...
Yep, it's getting better every day. Right now we use tablets in the field, so our inspectors, our tablets are connected to the web. So most of the time, the customer has a inspection notice, whether it's passed or rejected, and if it's rejected, what those issues are. They have that before the inspector even leaves the driveway. Last year, we put in another process that also will text the contractors, because a lot of contractors aren't on their sites all day, and so they'll get a text. And I don't do a lot of texting, but a lot of people do. So that seems to be the preferred way.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Sure.
They can also use the text now to even apply for inspections. And so it's...
So what proportion of your inspections in your business is related to residential versus commercial? Because clearly, not everybody is in the commercial side or even knows anything about that. And also, we all think about new home construction, and that seems to be where everybody thinks of inspections, So what percentage is which nowadays?
I don't have the statistics in front of
Sure.
me, but I would say 80% of our business, at least, is probably residential.
Sure.
It's remodeling, and new home building is going crazy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Could be
Sure.
better, but it's moving. We've been about the same number of new homes almost exactly for the last 3 years, which is just under 600, more like 575 or somewhere in that neighborhood.
Wow.
So
So it hasn't gone up particularly at the same level, eh?
No, and there's reasons for that.
Sure.
So
Yeah, we all know, we've all heard the cost conversations, so that obviously impacts everybody, right? So yeah,
it's the cost, it's the supply chain. There's not as many contractors and subcontractors out there. I think the county could, and the builders could support a lot more activity, but they just can't seem to get to the finish line on the houses because there's not enough people. It's extended the time frame it takes to build a house, probably, I would say, between 3 to 12 months.
Wow.
We're seeing an average decent sized house now taking 2 years to build.
that's amazing.
Wow. Yeah.
And
that's really something.
And we, from the real estate side, we know the demand's high. We know it only benefits us to have more housing stock and more option, and yet we see it every day too. We know that and as the cost goes up for the builder, that means people are able to spend more on a resale because they can rationalize, I can't afford to build, so they can rationalize spending more on the resale, which then drives up costs across the board for everybody. So it's a fascinating dynamic,
Right. And it also makes the houses that are available, it gives them a premium.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Is there, do we see many spec homes? Is there such thing as a spec home? Is there anybody trying to do a spec home out there, Jim?
We've seen some builders doing spec homes, and it's interesting because some of them have told me that the pressure to build a house for a customer now is so tough because they can't give a deadline on when the house is going to be completed. They can't give them a fixed cost because
Cheapers.
a lot of the contractors are putting escalation clauses in there. And,
Sure.
Used to be have a 5 or 10% contingency. Now you need like a 40% contingency.
Oh my.
And
amazing.
so the ones that are building spec houses are doing that just because when I get the house done, I know it's going to sell, and I don't want the pressure of somebody not, have selling their house and now they have to find a place to live in between, and
Yeah, that's a real issue.
and basically promising something they can't deliver.
Right.
So-
And feeling responsible, but yet unable to do anything about it.
Exactly. And I'm sure other businesses like real estate are the same way. Everybody's got customers, nobody's got products.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
The
Yeah.
supply for everybody, right?
Yep.
So and with that, we may well talk about commercial in a minute, but we'll stay on residential for a few minutes. And I think I kind of mentioned this to you that, so the conversation is prices continue to push up. Everybody, inflation seems to be the conversation of the day, and of course housing is part of that, but how do we figure out a way to keep costs at a level that allows for everybody, maybe not everybody, but the majority of the people that live in this county to continue to work in this county and be able to live in this county? And that means wages can only go up so fast, and housing, like if we took last year, went up 15%, and nobody's wages did that. So what do you have any suggestions? I mean, you're a point person at where all this is happening. Is there anything we can do to control cost? I mean, in some fashion.
I don't have that answer.
Uh-huh.
If I did, I'd certainly be
We'd all hear about it.
I'd be a very wealthy consultant somewhere. I'm not sure, but you're right. The costs are escalating. It's very difficult. Thank goodness for the low mortgage rates, because at this point,
yes,
money's almost, I don't want to say free, but as close as it can get, or as close as it's been forever.
Yeah. Darn low, yes.
Yeah. And so when people say, well, it's 30 grand, 40 grand more, they go, well, okay, there's X amount of dollars a month. I'm just going to budget that in, and they move forward.
Yes.
One thing we are missing here, I think, is affordable housing. That's kind of where you were going.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't see that happening. I think with the labor shortage, the material escalations, and the high development cost, it's almost impossible to, build a house at that level. When I say affordable housing, I mean probably 1,400 feet or less.
Yes.
Square footage, which is still a pretty nice house.
Yes.
But I don't think a builder can build that and make money. They make more money on the bigger houses, and not that they can't make money, but why would you be in a business where the margin is X when it can really be Z here,
right,
doing the same thing? And
and so I actually had this conversation today with some folks who were concerned about it, and of course, the best way to help drive down price would be to put more product in a tighter space, so you get more economy, so you don't have as much land cost and so forth. But the only way you can do that is to have sewer and water, to have utilities, and we only have so much utilities in Livingston County. We're not all sewer and water. We are septic and well for a predominant most of our land, and we just can't get the density. Therefore, and so it's a yin and yang problem, If we could solve that problem, then but the cost of bringing that in, somebody's got to bear it. So who picks that check up, And so the silver bullet isn't one bullet. It's a plan that somehow has to be very comprehensive, and no one's yet found the secret, I don't think.
Right. And development costs are, could add 40% on average. Yeah. So you look at the cost of a house. Let's say it's $300,000, then you add 40% to that for the land and the development cost. That's pushing that American dream even farther out.
Oh, sure.
It's certainly not the affordable home that everybody wishes they had. Right. So I'm not sure.
So in your role, have you seen an increase in laws, codes, whatever terms you want to use, that you think have driven up costs? And if so, what would be some good examples? If not, I get it, but
I think the building codes are reasonable, but they never get easier. The code book gets thicker every 3 years. And an example is what I think the energy code is probably almost unattainable. It's almost impossible to build it at standard.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we make the houses so tight, then we have rules that say you have this fresh air intake. So it's like, we wouldn't need the fresh air intake. Why would I have to cut a hole in the side of the house? Well, it's because I built the house so tight, So I think some of those things are thought through by engineers more so than practical people and practical builders that live in these houses and built these houses before.
Sure.
So I think there are some things in the code that certainly we could do better at.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I suspected it, but I haven't heard anybody say it, so I was wondering.
And there's a lot of vendors out there that lobby the code.
Yes.
For, to get their products
inserted
into the code. If you're making widgets, nothing better for you than have the code said each house needs 5 widgets.
Have the law say everybody has to have my widget.
Right.
That's right.
Examples of hurricanes, but I 62 years old. I don't remember Hurricane here.
Are we ready for the earthquakes?
Maybe I slept through it. I don't know.
So switching just to the commercial, and so my suspicion is, and I'm only doing this because it's a gut, is I would suspect the majority of the codes for commercial are more geared toward the health and safety of people coming into the space than it is maybe the energy, because wouldn't that be why you would be worried, right? I don't know. Am I wrong, or is
Well,
that?
no, you're right. But they still have an energy code. It's still
Is
it's still a higher standard than it used to be.
Really?
It's going to be a higher standard next time. And basically, all those energy codes are based on how many times the building changes air inside and outside, leakage.
Okay.
And
Okay.
they're getting tougher every year as well. So the commercial codes haven't changed that much. We see some stuff in the accessibility codes, and there are some standards that change, but I really can't name a lot of stuff that would impact the commercial business.
Sure.
We're not seeing that many new commercial buildings nowadays. We see a lot of tenant build-outs and such. Back in the 2000s when things are really going crazy, that all the strip malls are full.
Sure.
So there was no choice but for developers to build another building and rent it out because the market's there.
Yeah.
But we still have empty strip malls. There's a few in Livingston County that were built at the 2000 era that have never been occupied to this day.
Right.
So
That's amazing.
Well, and so I do quite a bit with the National Association of Realtors Commercial Research Division, and it's fascinating across the country as they've been taking strip malls and repurposing them. And one of the things that it's kind of been the hot button in some of the malls and in some of the more urban areas is they're converting them into residential. And I can't help but to wonder, I don't ask too many questions because if they're doing it, they're doing it. But I'm trying to figure out how you take a building that was built for a commercial code basis and now they're going to make it residential, and what the efforts that must be go through to repurpose it that fashion, because I just know what I've seen in some commercial transactions, what I've seen in residential, and they don't seem to be handshakes when it comes to going back and forth.
no, it's not. But actually, the standards work in that favor. It would be harder to take a residential building and convert it to a commercial building.
Fascinating.
Because of the floor loads are more. Floor loads in a regular home are 30 to 40 pounds a square foot. For an office space, it's 100 pounds a square foot. So the building literally has to be twice as strong, for commercial office use than it would be for residential use.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Isn't
That's an
that
interesting
fascinating? So, yeah, I never thought about going the other direction or which one had the harder. That's great. That's great. So what other things are kind of like you see in the future here as the issues that relate to the community and your role as the building official?
Well, I think that supply chain stuff is really, really an issue, and I think it continues to be an issue, and I see it getting worse. We've developed processes in our department to try to work around some of that stuff.
Sure.
And I can give you an example. We do a rough framing inspection, for instance. We're looking at the building. We're looking at how the building is sealed. And we're getting calls now, and they said, I could keep rolling, but I don't have any windows. Well, usually we wouldn't do a framing inspection without the windows.
Yes.
So now we're adding inspections to our team. We're saying, okay, we're going to, we want you to board up the windows so it doesn't get rain. You can go ahead with your insulation, you go ahead with your drywall, then you get the windows in. We'll come back and take a look, so it's a pretty dynamic process. It's always changing to try to keep people going.
Sure.
We're approving a lot of new houses now that don't have garage doors. Garage doors are 3 months out.
Oh, I have heard that. Yeah.
Siding could be, if you're ordering vinyl siding, special types of vinyl siding, not the thin stuff you get at Home Depot, but if you're ordering kind of a specialty siding, you could be 9 months out. We've had builders driving across the country to get siding.
And you can tell by my asking this that I haven't been in this situation in a long time, but there was a period where you could get a temporary C of O because of some things that were considered not crucial to living there, so somebody could actually close on their home, move into the house, and still have a reinspection later. Do we still have that capability? Does that still happen? I don't know.
It still happens. I mean, for the last 10 years, our people would call us and they say, what do I need to do to get a temporary C vote? What do I need to do to move in?
Sure.
And we would say, finish the house. Because once you get in, I can't get you out. I have to call my attorney to get you out if you don't comply, So, we're making adjustments to that.
Sure.
And but if it's something that can be done, and by all means, we require it. So we're not approving houses without siding, but as I said, we talked about it, though. We've talked about having people double Tyvek and tape things, and but we haven't got to that point where we actually let go of the C of O
Have to
yet.
do that, yeah.
Well, we have done it without the garage doors and granite countertops. Guys shows us a receipt and said, look, they're ordered.
Sure.
And
sure.
So we said, put a piece of plywood on the counter because you got to have a kitchen sink, and let's make those adjustments because we understand that not the person your life savings.
I will tell you, I appreciate your adaptability because historically, there has been times when there were people who said, "This is the rule. That's the rule. Call me when you met the rule." In other words, there was no conversation beyond that. You know what I mean? And so I appreciate the fact that at least you're having a conversation with somebody about it. You know,
without them, the county doesn't need me. So we got to work together to solve problems.
Oh, that's great.
I think that's where I've got a lot of respect for the building department, because your willingness to take a look at the fees, because that benefits the builder, the consumer, all the way down the line. That you've taken the lead on that, and then your flexibility to, even if there isn't flexibility, you understand what's going on in the marketplace, per se. So when you look at some of these builders and you say, wow, they can't give a delivery date, they can't get product, and they can't even get their arms around what the price is going to be for the consumer, that's a tough go of it.
I've been on both sides of the counter, and many of the staff have been. So we understand those challenges, and I've also worked in a lot of communities where here's the answer, and they can't even back it up in a code book. They just go, here's what you got to do, and we call it the God rule. It's just, I said so, and we tell our staff, if you can't find a code number next to you can't. And the building code is the minimum code is the maximum code. That's the minimum in a book. That's the maximum we push. We don't, sure, we would like to see it better.
Sure.
There are some people out there that have some quality issues, and the code doesn't compensate for quality anywhere. It's workmanship, so we have those struggles. Mm-hmm. But if it meets the minimum requirement of the code, then that's where we stop pushing, and I think that sets us apart a little bit to some of the other communities.
Sure.
Well, so for somebody who hasn't been through this process, I don't know which way to go with this, but probably the easiest way is let's say someone's going to remodel their house. At some point, you're going to. How many times will you have to come out and do an inspection? What? Just walk me through. I mean, are they gonna come to you and say, "I'm about to remodel"? What's the process? What am I going to do if I say I'm about to do some remodeling?
Well, we have a full-time plan review team.
Okay.
Well, we usually have 4 people, but right now we have 3. And when the plan reviewer looks at your project, he's going to determine what inspections you need. And then when you pick your permit up, we're going to give you a sheet that outlines all those inspections.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, a new house is usually about 6 inspections for the building part of it.
Is it? Okay.
And then 2 inspections for mechanical, 2 inspections for plumbing. So, I mean, there could be more. There are times that people call us and they say, listen, it's raining, but I got a chance to get the north and the east footing in.
Sure.
And we do 2 inspections for that. But we'll tell you what you need and make sure. We'd rather waste a trip out there than have you cover something up that we can't verify. Most people don't do things themselves, so our job is really to help protect them.
Yes.
Because a lot of contractors out there skip permits, and they'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission.
So and because there's been bad experiences in some of the suburban areas of Detroit, does every time you come out, do you get charged an inspection fee? I'm just asking because there's areas that were famous for inspection processes to sell a property, and it was like known that you're going to have 3 inspections. It didn't matter how your house was; you were going to have 3 inspections because they just kept on saying, "We'll be back."
That's all calculated in your permit fee.
Is that okay?
If you don't pass an inspection,
yes,
there's a cost for that.
Okay.
And sometimes I wish I could waive that. However, what happens in communities, when I was in City Brighton, we didn't charge a reinspection fee. Mm-hmm. I end up being the superintendent. I'm up there literally writing punch lists, with 35 items.
Yeah, back again tomorrow, again tomorrow.
Because there's no cost.
Yeah.
And so, we do charge for re-inspections, but generally if you get through a new house, it's 6 inspections. If you're doing your basement, it's maybe 3,
Okay. No, that makes all sense. I'm pretty naive about it, so it's good to hear, yeah. And a lot of people do some remodeling themselves. I mean, how many people have you heard wanted to do a flip house, for instance? So they need inspections, Mm-hmm. Are they going to have probably 2 or 3? Are they going to have 1 at the end, or what do you think?
Again, it depends on what they're doing.
Sure.
There are things that we are mandated to look at.
Okay.
Other things that we want to look at. We have to look at the framing. We have to look at the foundation. We have to look at the insulation values and the insulation stuff. So that's an example of 3 inspections.
Sure.
And we don't have to look at interior doors or anything like that, but we go through and look at all that on the final. But so it really depends on the project. I would say that average remodeling project would take 3 or 4 inspections,
Okay.
and average new house takes 6. That's just for the building part of it. Then mechanical, electrical, and plumbing are usually 2 each, a rough and a final.
Okay. And so, we with a resale home, and we have home inspectors, and I don't know how often an inspector say, "Well, this isn't code," and it was code when the home was built. Mm-hmm. So now you're doing a remodeling project. Are you obligated to, quote unquote, bring your house up to code? Let's say if the plumbing isn't the way it was, or electrical, or is that how does that play out when it comes to me, the average Joe, doing my house?
The answer is no. You don't have to bring that to code. At least in Livingston County.
Yeah, sure.
I've had houses I had some rental houses in another community, and I fought those battles there.
Okay.
But the Michigan code says anything that was approved under an existing code can stay as it is. So we don't want our inspectors coming and look at your new kitchen and then pointing out the window and going, "I don't like your deck." We're not going to tolerate that.
Okay. That's good.
So we look at what's ever under the permit, and an example is we got a guy that's got an 1800s home, and he's adding space on the second floor, but the old stairways were like a ladder.
Exactly.
Very short treads and very steep, and we don't make him bring it up to code. And if he's going to tear it out and rebuild it, then we might need to talk.
Yeah.
But you don't have to fix stuff.
That's very reassuring, because I just can't tell you the anxiety people have after they hear that's not the code, and you're trying to explain it was at one time,
Right.
So,
but if we go out there and we see a 220 volt wire nutted hanging from the ceiling or something, we're going to try to muscle that person into correcting that issue. But
knob and tube's really tough.
Right. But at the end of the day, I always think of it. If I was in court, could I back this up? Would I want to be that person? And if I can't back it up, then I can't. We're a regulatory department, but again, we're only looking for the bare minimum.
Right. Absolutely. Well, gee, this has helped me out a lot. Any thoughts about what's happening in the future? Where do you see this going? We both know we're in a sort of a tough time, shall we say, for lack of a better term, both for builders, supply, and you name it. Do you have any vision of what's going to happen next?
I don't. I mean, this economy is really unprecedented. I mean, not the economy from a financial standpoint, but from a workforce. We have this very low unemployment, but we have the big quit, right? Everybody just said, "Hey, I don't want to work anymore.
I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't want to work anymore." But
big resignation.
But I do, and I do like to work. Yes. So, but I see that, and I see that as a big hindrance. Going back to when we started this broadcast, we could sustain a lot more activity. We just can't find the workforces, and the builders are out there working those guys 6 days a week. They're begging people to come to work, and I get calls every day from the builders asking me, "Do you know any rough crews? Do you know any siding crews?" And and they're just not available. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look at the economy where it was in the early 2000s, and in the early 2000s, Michigan was building 15,000 houses a year. Now you got the same economy, same low unemployment, and we're building 5,000 houses a year.
It's amazing.
Yeah, they just can't get to the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
So we're also seeing, high development costs and those types of things that are really hindering everybody. The desired areas, the developed areas where we have water and sewer, those are kind of built out. I mean, City of Brighton's got a small tract left where Robertson Brothers was looking at one time, but other than that, you end up in the townships where you got well and septic, and some of that water's not great.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to be on that. They want the city urban style. I could be out in the country. It doesn't really bother me, but for the most part, if you're selling houses over and over, you want that. A lot of communities don't want the density. The zoning laws don't allow for that deep density, and you got to get variances, which are tough to get because people come out of the woodwork and they go, I'm here now. Close the door. I don't want that guy living next door to me.
Not in my backyard. Oh, yeah.
So
NIMBYs.
So I'm not sure what the answer is, but nobody wants to be in the trades anymore. I grew up as a carpenter. I went through the union program, and I thought it was a great way to make a living.
Yeah. And I think it is a good way. It's just we now need to get we now need a whole bunch of young folks to get, or people ready to work, to get educated on how to do it so they can be there. And it takes the time to ramp up. Nothing's automatic. Right.
And it's physically, it's hard.
Yes, it's physically hard, yeah. A day like today when it's 16 degrees, it's not a popular day to be on a roof. Right. I don't care how much you're paid.
Well, like we used to say, you got to eat on the cold days too.
So, one of the things, Carol, and I would like to do is, you're a Livingston County guy, and sort of, I guess, as we sort of summarize things, is we like to have people who live here and work here, would just to sort of reflect on the community. Well, so what's like two or three things you love doing in Livingston County that has nothing to do with work? What do you like to do?
Well, personally?
Yes, it is a personal question now.
I ride bikes.
Do you?
Yeah, I ride mountain bikes mostly. So.
And so where's your favorite place to go out here?
You know, I live at the back door of the Brighton Rec area. So
do you?
I ride there a lot. But my favorite local trails are the DTE trails in Chelsea.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Great place to ride.
Well, it's a great community to live in, and so we just sort of like, why do you like living here? That's one of the reasons,
I grew up on the south side of Chicago.
Did you?
So this is just like paradise to me,
Oh, that's great. So. And then and I guess the last question is like, so if you go out to dinner, where's your favorite place to go out to dinner in Livingston County?
Oh, God, there's so many of them.
I know. That's why it's a fun question. Everybody's got a different choice.
One of them's closed, and I read that today. So. But, there's just a lot of great restaurants. Some of the ones in downtown Brighton are great.
Yeah.
They're all over the place. There's a lot of good food here. So.
Yeah. It's just one of those things we just like to. We're just going to ask everybody because everybody should get a perspective, So.
We won't ask you who your favorite commissioner is, or.
Oh, no, yeah, let's ask.
You were certainly in the top 7.
Yeah, you're in the top 7. There you go. Well, really, thanks so much, Jim, for taking the time today to be with us. We appreciate your time. We know it took out of your busy day. And
thanks for having me. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you so much.
You certainly have been a leader in the industry, so we appreciate all you do. And
thank you, Carol.
What makes the community great is people like you and departments like yours. So thank you.
And thanks for your work on the board, too.
And thank you for everybody listening to Land and Legacy here with Griffith Realty. We really appreciate it, and hope that you got to learn what we did today out of this. Thank you very much.